What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the ride. I am your host, Dr. Mephisto, and this is the first episode since the beginning of the craziness that happened with the pandemic. Sorry guys, I had to take a break. You understand why, social distancing and everything. But I'm coming back with some heavy shit. The guest I'm getting today is very interesting dude. African entrepreneur. He owns a website called Children of the Dark Continent. He's a photographer and very, very smart, intelligent guy, and I can't wait for you guys to discover him. As usual, you can support us on the patreon.com page for as little as $1 a month to help us grow this channel and come up with some new content for you guys. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tell your friends. Let's go. Shelton.
Yes, sir.
How's it going?
I'm good. How's it going?
Nice to see you.
Good to see you. Good to see you.
All right. So, give us a quick introduction for people who don't know you.
Oh man, where do I start? So Shelton Mpala, originally born and raised in Zimbabwe and Bulawayo. I am I wear a lot of hats. So primarily Pan-African entrepreneur, really big in ex-retail marketing manager. Yeah, that's a little bit about me, and founder of course of Children of the Dark Continent.
Yeah, because that's what we're here, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So can you explain what's this? It's a company, right? It's just
Yeah, so basically Children of the Dark Continent basically was birthed because I was just really frustrated with always seeing a negative image of Africa.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what, let me try and flip the script and show a more positive image of Africa through language, culture, food, arts, fashion, like you name it. So that's what we've been basically focusing on, is the more positive image of Africa rather than the Lion King narrative or hungry kids out on the streets. Yeah. So that's what we've been basically doing.
Yeah, so that's I'm learning this. Like, I thought Children of the Dark Continent was just photography.
Yeah,
but,
no,
but it's much more than that.
Exactly. I think initially my main focus was visual.
Okay.
But I definitely wanted it to be just more than just the visual, like in terms of like just photography, video. But we're definitely trying to also incorporate other facets of it, like the food, the culture, the music and stuff as well. Because I think it represents a fuller picture of what Africa truly is.
So when you say present those aspects, do you, in what term, with visual or with events or with promotion those business or?
Yeah, so for most part, what we've been doing is basically more of a visual.
Okay.
But we're definitely looking to expand that into either doing events, promoting businesses, or even promoting either businesses or people or certain countries in terms of like tourism and stuff. So we're definitely looking at what opportunities are there and make sense, because we want to do it right. So it has to definitely make sense to us.
Right.
Yeah.
And because you have a pretty big following, like sorry, getting to the basic stuff, but it matters nowadays.
Definitely.
So question I wanted to ask is, all those crazy pictures you have, you took all of them?
So some of them were taken by me, and then some of them we do have like contributors.
Okay.
So a lot of the contributors that I do have are based in Africa, so it also gives them an opportunity to showcase them to the world, because for most part they would only have access to whoever's in their community or town or city. So it's also an opportunity to showcase some of these guys' creativity, because they're like some really amazing photographers, artists, musicians, you name it.
Right.
Yeah.
Any particular one that really blew your mind? You have in mind right now?
There's quite a lot. There's quite a few from Kenya. One guy called Walenza. His photography is just like crazy. And then there's also one guy called Ghana Showboy as well.
Mm-hmm.
His photography is like unbelievable. But as well, I also have some friends that are doing film in South Africa. Shout out to Salamina. Shout out to Stefina as well. And shout out to Kitumeti. They're two of them are female directors. And then one is a film producer as well. So yeah, also like super talented, and it's just so fortunate that with this path I've been able to, meet these people and interact with them as well.
And so far you've been traveling a lot with this company you created, or?
Yeah, so primarily the places that I have been able to travel is mostly in Southern Africa, but definitely looking to expand that hopefully after this Corona thing is over. But yeah, essentially like, dude, I definitely want to go to every single country in Africa, just to really like highlight the more positive things about that space or place, mm-hmm. and the culture, and as well hopefully to really start some conversations around either African people or people that are also interested in going to see Africa, in terms of how do we move Africa forward, how do we make it better not only for the current generation but also for future generations. So I hope that by doing this as well, it sparks a lot of conversations.
I see.
Yeah.
And are you also looking into covering the African diaspora in like outside of Africa too?
Yeah, definitely. I think if I didn't do that, it would be a huge missing piece. Especially because even like when people necessarily think about African diaspora, they just think about, okay, I just left Zimbabwe and I moved to Canada, I'm African diaspora. But I want even to go even further back in terms of like going back into the slave trade. So in terms of like a lot of the Africans that are either Afro-Brazilian, Afro-Cuban, in the West Indies, because there's a huge African culture that a lot of people don't necessarily know about. And the craziest, like one of the craziest stories that I got to know about a couple of years ago is like, there's even an African tribe in India, which is absolutely, like when I found out, it was like absolutely crazy. So it's just like a lot of people don't necessarily know about some of these stories. So it's just basically finding these stories and then showcasing them to the rest of the world, because they're really interesting stories to find all these African communities and places you never expect to find them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And when you started this?
So initially started in 2015. But it's been a long process. A lot of learning, because it's always difficult in terms of finding the right message that people would connect with, in terms of, okay, if I'm going to be, I don't know if you've heard of the Maslow hierarchy of needs. The Maslow's hierarchy of needs?
No.
So basically it's like this pyramid that has human needs. So at the very basic bottom of the pyramid is like food, safety, shelter. And then you go up from scale up all the way up till like till the stage where a person fully knows who themselves, who they are, and is in a place where economically they're very well off as well. So they don't necessarily have to have the same worries as the person at the very bottom who is only thinking about what am I going to eat next. So pretty much what I really wanted to find out is like, how do I then, target the African demographic that I want to really target, which was the African demographic that basically was worrying about how do I get the next meal tomorrow. And it really took a long time, because obviously if I'm looking at that, focusing on that demographic, most likely because I'm only using social media, they're not going to have a smartphone or whatever, or have money to focus on social media, right? So then I had to repivot and then really refocus my efforts on those people that basically are able to basically have social media or connect, even on Facebook or whatever the case is. And then hopefully from then on scale and then start to reach to the people either on the high end and the lower end of that, but to basically have a solid core first and then build from that.
Right. And so you started with like connection that you had already, and then went from a person to another from that, or did you start just in Toronto and?
Yeah, so it just basically all started grassroots within Toronto, just trying to really connect with the people. I think with anything that you do, you have to start locally, just to get a lot of people's feedback, because I feel sometimes it's more difficult. Especially if you're not living in if I'm not living in Africa all the time, to connect with a lot of people in Africa. So I just found it easier to start off here and then scale it from there on.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you're also a photographer in the city, right?
Yeah. So I do some photography, but now it's mostly been like a hobby.
Yeah.
For most part, because it's just like I have other stuff within the business that has me so involved. Right. So it's just like I just don't have the time to dabble in everything. So right now the main brunt of the business is basically how do I scale, how do I improve, and how do I also improve networking, because that's also like a huge part of it.
Yeah. So you network well, obviously TK.
Yes,
you guys collaborating on this project too, or? Yeah,
so with TK, I've definitely done some projects with him, and we still have some projects that will be coming up hopefully sometime later in this year, but really exciting because he's definitely like in a very interesting space in terms of the entertainment industry, especially with music, and even with what you're doing with Ubuntu. I think there's also a big opportunity for collaborations as well, because I always tell people this. It's like when we initially moved to Canada, which was like in 2003, African music was not being played at all. And come to now, it's like played at every mainstream club, like even downtown, uptown. Like it's crazy to see the transformation. So I think the space is only going to grow bigger. So it's just like, how do we then nurture that and continue to grow the culture, get more people interested in actually finding out, even just more than just going just past the music, finding out about the culture as well. So that's I think the next big thing that we're trying to really look to push.
That's an interesting challenge, because it's a challenge that I don't want to say hip hop failed to do it, but it certainly like went away from the original intention. You know what I mean?
Very true.
So how do you do to avoid like all that amazing music going the same way that hip hop did?
I think with anything, for people to really buy into a brand, they need to understand the story.
Right.
And not only understand the story, but buy into the story. So for example, like I'll go back to my retail days. So when you look at like brands that have been around, whether it's the luxury brands like the Louis Vuittons, it's all based on a story, like how these brands started from a little like boutique, and then were able to then scale. So it's just basically building that story and getting people to understand exactly the influences, the greats that have come, because right now I think people are just like, oh, this is good, but they don't really fully understand and appreciate the history. So hopefully we're trying to also tie in that history to really make it a stronger package.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this a lot actually, because everybody listened to hip hop, but not everybody listened to the previous songs, that were actually talking about stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly.
You want the experience without knowing, really wanting the story. And it's even more true for me, because coming from France, who don't speak the language, I know so many people will never really listen to the lyrics. Even if they started listening to, understanding English a little bit more, they never really paid attention to the lyrics, and always paid attention to the vibe or the beat.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I feel that it's kind of the same for Afrobeat, because most of the people are never going to listen to the lyrics, or understand them, because sometimes they're using their native tongue or whatever. Yeah, and nowadays, even for the dance moves, you know, like you could try to understand the history behind the dance move that comes in. Especially when I was talking to a Congolese friend the other day, where he was telling me how with the Congolese rumba,
Yes.
like you don't have to necessarily do too many complicated stuff, but it's all about like how well you do a move, and you know, he explained me all that history.
And flow with the music.
Yeah, he explained me all that stuff, but if you just go on YouTube and just imitate someone, you don't get that story behind it. You know what I mean?
No.
So
and that's where the richness really comes into. So I think that's definitely something that we definitely want to like really focus on, because it just makes for a richer story, and just an overall better culture for either the music or the dance as well.
Right. So I haven't gone through all your content, but do you limit yourself to photography, or you go into like video stuff? Because you said you have some movie producers as well, or video producers.
Yeah, so one aspect that we're really trying to develop now is either the vlogging, or even just the what can I say, the quote unquote Q&A sessions, where we really want to just sit down and have a conversation and get people to ask us questions, start a conversation around either certain issues that they see, either in the world or within Africa or within the African community, and just really talk, because I think there's so much power in conversations, and culturally as Africans, that was one of our big things in terms of like when I was growing up. I always remember like in the evenings with my grandmother, we always go outside and she would tell me all these stories. So it's something that I definitely want to continue in that same light of being able to have those conversations and have those stories, because there's so much wealth and knowledge that gets shared within those interactions. And I definitely feel that we can definitely learn, and I personally am learning from each and every interaction that I have with people. So I just also want to like soak up all the knowledge that these people can actually throw at me as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you find that your work is even more relevant with all the stuff that happened nowadays? I have to talk about it.
It's, to be honest, it's crazy. Like it's crazy in regards to there's certain issues that I've definitely been talking about for the longest time, in terms of just being aware of just like with your culture, in terms of just being black, and I find especially when you look at different ethnic groups, so we'll look at, or just give you an example, like in terms of like Indian people, Chinese people, Jewish people, is wherever they go in the world, they always bring their culture, they always bring their language with them. And I feel that for a lot of black communities, we've always assimilated to whatever culture that we've been basically taken to. So if I was to go and live in France, I would have to assimilate to French culture, learn the language, and forget everything that I am or where I'm coming from. And it's something that I've been telling people, that no, we definitely need to keep our culture, we need definitely keep our roots, because that's where the true wealth of any type of person really belongs in. And like I'm saying, if you look at the people either from India or Jewish people or any other communities, or even Italian communities, they really stick to their culture. And that's something that I think as black people we definitely need to do a better job of. And even with people in the US, it's like, to me, it's sad to know that some people just don't know their history in terms of who they are, where they're from, because I've literally had people on the platform ask me, oh, by look at my face, can you tell if I am from West Africa or South Africa or Northern Africa? And I'm just like, wow, that really hurts for someone not to know who they are. So it's
really?
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, it's really crazy. And I never thought about it much until I put up this post, and I just got bombarded by people asking me questions in regards of just finding out or tracing their ancestry. So it's like little things like that. I think once we do connect with a culture and find ourselves, I think it'll definitely improve hopefully life for black people in terms of getting together.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I want to make a little precise on make a little precision on what you talk about going to live in France.
No, go ahead.
Because there's a thing, and when you compare to England, for example, that's what we learn in school.
Yeah.
That when you become a French citizen, you need to assimilate the French culture. Whether when you go to England, you bring your culture, so they live together but separated.
Mm-hmm.
But in France, there's this thing about being a child of the French Republic, and you need to. It's a little bit like in the U.S. You need to basically embrace their culture when you become a citizen. It's kind of the same thing in France.
Yeah.
But it's true that you still have neighborhoods and streets where people, gather. They have communities and everything. So.
Exactly.
But yeah, there is, I would say, also in France, a lot of like very poor countries, and most like people there are Black or Arabs.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I've heard of some of the places.
Yeah, trust me, man.
Chateau Rouge and yeah.
Well, that's Paris. When you go outside in certain neighborhoods, like, dude, you don't believe it's France anymore. You think you're in a war zone or something. It's crazy.
Wow.
It's very crazy.
Wow.
But you never see this in your tourist guide, so people have no idea.
That's the thing, yeah. They only show you the Eiffel Tower, the Champs-Elysees.
Yeah. They cover the misery.
Yeah.
My best friend used to live in not even in Paris, but in a city in Provence, where they had like very shitty buildings, and then the city came and just did a paint job to make it look nice, from the highway.
Wow.
But really, it was still the same shitty building.
Wow.
So, yeah. A lot of appearances.
Yeah, everything, like a lot of things in life is like really driven by image. Like image. There's so much power in image, and I think for a lot of people, it's like, especially in terms of like trying to improve yourself. It's like, do you see people of either your same skin tone or color or talk the same way? Mm-hmm. Do you see them as superstars or as professors, as lawyers, as whatever? So for a lot of kids, I feel like it's tough sometimes if they don't see these positive role models, for them to think that they can either elevate themselves that high, if they're not actively seeing these people on a daily basis. So that's one thing that I've also been really trying to focus is on how do we also try and mentor some of these kids that are in, like you're saying, in these bad conditions or growing up in these areas, where they don't have that positive image to look up to. Is like, how do we motivate them to want to do more, want to be more, and really, use their talents and skills to become something bigger than their parents was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a tough one. And I'm not going to talk 2 hours about France. It's funny because there's very different issues.
True.
In different countries. I know. Part of the reason I left my country was related to that, like the system, the racist system. Like that was one of the reasons. Mm-hmm. But it's it's very upsetting. Mm-hmm. Do you see the differences? How long have you been? You're not born in Canada, right?
Nope. No. So I arrived in Canada when I was 20. Mm-hmm. So born and raised in Zimbabwe. Left when I was 17. Moved to England for about 3 years or so, and then moved here.
Did you meet TK there or here?
No, so TK actually met here through some friends, and then we just clicked.
Yeah.
And we've been friends for almost like, I want to say 16, 17 years.
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah, we go back like really, really way back. But he's an awesome person, really down to earth, and he's just been one guy that's just been hustling to really try and push the movement, even before I even got onto it. So I really commend him, and I really appreciate him as a person, but also as a leader that he's become in terms of in our community.
Yeah.
Because it's not easy when you start off and you don't necessarily have the support or the support structures that you need, especially when you go into entrepreneurship. Like it's tough, man. It's really tough, and people only understand once they're actually in your shoes as an entrepreneur, to actually see like, yo, like, man, this is really tough. It looks easy from outside, but when you're inside, it's definitely more tough, and you only get to appreciate it once you actually are an entrepreneur.
Yeah. And to know more about TK Smooth, check episode number 3.
Exactly.
So, shit, I was gonna ask. Oh yeah. So you're not born here. So you spend any time in the States? Do you see differences between what you see in Canada versus what you see in the States, and how people react? But to put everything back in context, if someone watched the video way later, we're in the middle of all the protests happening after the murder of George Floyd in the U.S.
Yep.
and many more.
Yep.
And this is kind of like a movement that it's being followed everywhere, right?
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, so I actually worked in Boston for like 2.5 years.
Okay.
And it's just crazy to see the disparity, especially I think within Boston, because Boston, I'm not too sure if you know, is like one of the cities that has well, 2 of, I guess, the most elite like universities in the world, which is like Harvard and MIT. Yeah. So it's just packed. It's just a city that's packed with a lot of like colleges and universities. I think it has the most colleges and university as in the U.S. for the space that they have per capita or whatever. So there's a lot of really great, smart, intellectual people. A lot of really wealthy Bostonians, either from like old money, and then when you go into the neighborhoods, you then get a lot of immigrants, either from the Vietnamese community, Caribbean communities, and this island I had never really heard of until I moved to Boston, which was Cape Verde.
Okay.
So there's a huge Cape Verdean community. So if you don't know, Cape Verde is just off the west coast of Africa, Portuguese colony. And I literally didn't know about it until I really moved there. So it was just interesting to see the differences between the haves and the have-nots. But as well, in terms of the history,
aren't they Muslim there?
No, I think they're Christian.
Oh,
in Cape Verde?
Yeah, maybe I'm
Christian,
no,
Portuguese.
I know a French Afrobeat singer that's from Cape Verde. That's why.
Oh, okay.
He's Muslim, but I thought
it could be a mixture.
Yeah.
That I'm not too sure, because I haven't really looked too deep into the culture. So it could be, very well could be.
Yeah, there's a lot of Cape Verdean. How do you say it in English? People from Cape Verde? From
Cape Verdean.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of them in France too.
Okay. Yeah, I literally had never seen them, because I literally thought they were like Latino.
Okay.
Or Spanish when the first time I like interacted with them, and they're like, nope, Cape Verde. So yeah, it was also interesting just to learn a little bit about the culture. But yeah, it was just like a unique environment to I guess live in, because you always hear all these stereotypes about the US, but to actually live there on a day-to-day basis and actually see some of like the systemic racism, or I guess as well in regards to, I don't want to say it like in a bad way, but Americans not really understanding what else is going on in the rest of the world.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they are a bit closed-minded in terms of they've been told like from a very early age, like America is the best country, it's the best country in the world. But then I'll go and ask some of them, I'm like, how can you say it's the best country in the world and you don't even have a passport? Like, you haven't traveled. Like, how can you say that? Like, get your passport, get to travel and see the world, and then yes, come back to me, and then we can compare notes. And if you still do say that it is the best country in the world, then okay.
It has to play with your brain when you keep hearing that you're the best from the, this entitlement thing.
Exactly. But like I'm saying, like it's not to throw any shade, because there's also like a lot of American people that I've met that travel a lot, but as well, I guess it's with every culture. But I found that it was much more pronounced with them saying that we're the best country, we're the best country, we're the best country.
Listen, like, I don't know. Everywhere I went, it's always the people that never left this neighborhood or
Yes.
that
yes.
Are a little behind at the end of the day.
Yes.
Humanly speaking, like it's just A plus B.
Yeah, and traveling opens your mind to so many things and appreciation for so many things. Even when I go to Africa, like every time I'm just blown away. I'm just like, wow, like you see a lot of people that have literally nothing but are the happiest people. And sometimes I just sit back and just scratch my head. I'm like how could it be? But I think that's also like a narrative that's always been perpetuated, that you need to have all these things like the latest this, the latest that to be truly happy. But yet again, if you have, your friends, your family, or just even a roof over your head, like just be thankful for those, for like those little things. So it definitely made me more humble and more appreciative of what I have.
Right. Do you plan to go there? Like, you go there on vacation, or you have maybe one day a will to like live there? Or I know a lot of my friends talks about that.
Yeah.
Especially when they see all the shit that's happening right now just in Europe or even in North America.
I honestly think there definitely is going to be a migration back. For me, definitely I have to move back to the continent. I'm definitely still working on putting that together. I don't know, like there's, as they say, there's no place like home, right?
I want to say it's not even tempting just for I know some white people, like other races. I don't like that word, but that consider it.
Africa's home?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Like,
I think the crazy thing is a lot of people just always assume Africa that you have to be black or you have to be Arabic. No, like we have blonde, blue eyes, people that have been there for multiples of generations. Like even half of my class in primary and high school, like half of it was like mixed, either white, Indian. We had a few like Asians as well, in terms of like Chinese. So it's just crazy to see the multiculturalness of it, and it's just crazy because I've even seen people that speak the language even better than I do, right? And this guy is like white. I'm just like, what the heck is going on? But it's just that because they just love the culture, they've grown up there, and they really appreciate being African, so they've really taken it to heart.
Yeah. I mean, it works the other way as well. Like some of my friends from back in university, from like Togo or Ivory Coast, they spoke better French than me.
That's crazy.
So
That's crazy. Yeah.
But the schools there are like very, very strict in terms of the French language. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, because like they really try and I guess there's an English word called prune, which is basically like making something perfect, like cutting any like extra. So pruning basically is based on like cutting a rose bush to make sure that it has a shape, like it's rounded, it's pretty, it's nice. It doesn't have like all its roots or shoots poking out everywhere. So essentially that's what we were raised in, just trying to be pruned to either speak the Queen's English even better, or what can I say, or just to know their culture even more. Because even for our parents, coming from a Ndebele background, or even just a black African background, we're always taught that the more that we knew the language, the better the opportunities you would get in terms of like job or career wise. So we also try to learn as much English as we possibly could, hoping that it would give us better opportunities. But that's not always the case. It's always just like in terms of like a person's motivation. How hungry are they to be successful, rather than just I speak perfect English, or whatever the case may be. And I've seen it time and time again where you have people that speak really well but are not really doing anything with their lives, and then you have people that have like third grade education but are CEOs of huge corporations, and I'm just like,
that's the network.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the network.
Yeah.
And it's also funny because maybe you have also people who went and studied in Westworld or whatever, and then come back and then they have like crazy jobs.
Yeah.
A lot of my friends from university went back to Mali, and they work there. They have like huge mansions and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, the opportunities are endless with Africa. I think Akon once said that Africa is one of the last places that you can go in the world, start a company and make it into a Fortune 500 company. And it's truly that. It's really still a rough gem that's not polished. In terms of, there's a lot of opportunities, whether in construction, within IT, within agriculture, because there's so much land, there's so many young people within the population. So Africa is the longest population in the world right now. So there's so many opportunities, but it's just like, how do you then go to Africa and try and take full advantage of those opportunities, but as well also improve the lifestyle for the rest of the local population as well.
It's funny because it's gonna sound like, because I don't know much IT company from Africa, but because I'm in the IT field, and every time I think about African country, it reminds me a little bit of Russia in terms of like, there's so many, like if you take social media for example, there's so many scams that comes from Russia and come from I don't know, Nigeria, stuff like that, like all those spams and like those and I work in cybersecurity, so I've seen a lot of stuff like that coming from those countries. And I know that there's a couple of countries are really invested into making cryptocurrencies in Africa too.
Yeah. I think that's definitely like a really interesting space, especially with like you're saying within cybersecurity. Not only that, it's just like a lot of the countries, like the currency is so easily forged, or they can easily just make it. So in terms of like the frauds, there's definitely a lot of it. But I think with cryptocurrency, I think there's definitely a much safer way, or even just with blockchain technology in terms of being able to trace certain things. Because even with corruption, where you have some of these leaders or people in power stealing billions of dollars and the money just vanishes.
Right.
So hopefully with stuff like either like with blockchain, being able to trace where all the source of funds are coming in, or even just trying to protect, like in terms of like safeguards for people either trying to hack either like banks or either people's email accounts or websites or whatever the case is. I think there's definitely like a huge opportunity in that space as well.
Well, this will always happen.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because it's always exploit the weaker element, which is the human being.
Yeah.
But what I was gonna say is that I'm losing my train of thought right now.
Technology.
No, you were talking about. I was gonna say, especially cryptocurrency is interesting when it comes to countries that still get their money printed by their ancient colonizers.
Yes.
Like all the old French colonies, for example.
Still using the CFA.
Yeah. I've heard stuff like that some country are, I think. Oh no! Didn't Macron, or the French president, say he was gonna get rid of the CFA? I heard something like that recently.
There's always been a lot of talk, but it's still ongoing right now. I think it's more on the African countries that have been pushing to try and stop it.
Yeah.
Because as well, they're paying like a ridiculous amount of tax.
It's so upsetting, man. It's so upsetting. Like
literally just giving France money, like
it's an allowance. Like they give all their money and they give them an allowance. That's fucking upsetting.
Yeah, like this is your money. Like it's crazy, but
this is the same thing for us. It's like, it's not like we can just take our money all at once out of the bank right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
We can't really do that.
Yeah. So there definitely needs to be an awakening in terms of Africans being able to control their economies better, and as well trying to control their banks better, because I feel like to a certain point there has been like what can I say, like infiltration from people trying to mess up their banking systems, or trying to take advantage of, like you're saying, this loophole that France has with these francophone countries. Because it's just crazy. Like literally billions of dollars are just going out of Africa each and every year, and the African people are not getting to see that money work for them. So it's really sad. Really sad.
Yeah. I kind of like maybe if you want to talk about something else, because I can't go down on this topic for hours.
I know.
I want to give you the opportunity to talk about anything you want.
Yeah, no, I think for me it's just like I just want to reach out to as many people, like and also have them to reach out to me. I'm definitely interested in hearing your ideas and thoughts about, how do we move Africa forward together? How do we improve certain things? Whether it be technology or even just water, like how do we improve water systems, or even how do we improve like paving roads, because that's always like a huge issue in terms of like you'll find like a lot of, let's say, like especially in the villages, they'll have poor access to roads, so it just makes it difficult either for example, if you're a farmer, to get your produce to the market or whatever the case is. So I'm definitely always looking to connect with people to try and come up with conversations of how we can improve Africa, but as well also still looking to build my team, because I may sit and talk your ear off but not have a full picture of what Africa is to everyone. So also try and encourage people to join my team. Tell us about your Africa, tell us about what your Africa looks like, because everyone has a different perspective, whether you're male or female, or whether you're from a different religion, or whether you're from a different country, or just have a different mindset or a different outlook at certain things. So I'm very open to just connecting with people, and just getting to know more about them and more about how we can move this movement forward.
Just to make a comment on what you said, have you heard of Starlink?
No, but I will be looking it up. Tell me more.
You heard of SpaceX, right?
Yes.
So they have this company called Starlink, where they're trying to send like mini satellites in the low atmosphere range of the Earth. And basically those are meant to provide internet in isolated areas in the world.
Wow, okay.
So they're trying to launch a first pilot for the countryside of Canada right now.
Oh wow, okay.
But just imagine the possibilities for African countries.
Yeah.
That'd be crazy.
Yeah, because I think that's also been always a big issue, the connectivity.
Yeah.
Within different areas of Africa. So I think now it's definitely starting to improve, especially with the age of like WhatsApp or back then BBM. But yeah, connectivity is so huge and it's so important.
But yeah, that means that any village everywhere that just can get power through like solar panels or whatever can connect to internet.
Yep. And it's just
game changer.
Huge game changer, because like when you literally think about there's some people in Africa that have no idea what the internet is.
Right.
And to me that's just it's crazy, especially in this day and age.
Yeah.
So it's absolutely crazy. So if we're able to at least provide internet, or try and teach some of these young kids what the internet is and how to use it.
Well, maybe the life is better that way.
True. But I think as well, it also would expose them to outside of the world in terms of like opportunities. Like, you know what, I can be a Shelton or I can be a Kevin and, you know, go to all these interesting places in the world, learn and take whatever knowledge and bring it back to my community and make it better. Or even use whatever knowledge that they have learned through the internet in their communities. I think we've seen it time and time again, you know, these African genius kids that have literally no training but are able to build like windmills or solar panels or these things, and it's just like how do we encourage them to continue to do that?
The big game changer would be to learn how to refine all those materials that are available there and that are just sold to other countries.
Yes. No, that's definitely a big one. But as well, I think as well is for people to also know what types of resources that their countries have, because even for me, born and raised in Zimbabwe, I knew about a certain number of like either natural resources that we have, but only get to discover like maybe 15 years after I left, we actually have diamonds. And I'm just like, all my life growing up, from like 1 until 17, I had no idea that the country had diamonds, and which is like a huge like revenue generator for any country. So it's just like how do we then, you know, one, not only educate them about what diamonds are, how does the diamond market work, how does diamond cutting work, how does the diamond industry work, and for some of these things they're not able to go to a library and get the book because they don't have access to that many libraries. So with something like the internet, where they can easily access all the latest news or all the latest posts about this diamond industry or diamond sector, it'll just make them learn so much more, so much quicker than having to rely on like outdated books and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's a challenge. But then like access computers is also another challenge. Is that a dead end here?
Yeah, so you can just turn around. End of the road.
What was I gonna say? Do you have any project for Toronto?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be actually partnering with a couple of guys right now that are doing a radio channel. I'm sure you've heard of them, KIF Radio, Sine and Yannick. So we're definitely going to be working with them, collaborating in regards to, like, just as we talked about TK, just pushing African music forward. So definitely working with them to see if we could do like live pods and just basically talk about the culture, educate people more. So that's in the works. Hopefully sometime this summer we should drop a few episodes, but they already have some episodes ongoing right now, so definitely check them out if you're on Instagram, KIF Radio, Facebook as well, KIF Radio. But yeah, also looking for other opportunities as well, and hopefully even with Ubuntu, seeing what opportunities that we can definitely collaborate with. So I'm really excited for the summer, even though it is a COVID summer. But we just have to make best of what we have.
Yeah, I'm looking into that. Like, I've seen places where I would like to do outdoor stuff, but I don't even know if it's possible. If you keep your distances and everything. It's complicated. You know what? We started doing stuff online, and then I was like, I don't see the point. I don't see the point. It's like, you know, making you want to have a drink and you just don't put alcohol in it. Like, it's just different. It's just different. Like, having a party without people is just not the same way. Doesn't have a vibe. Weird.
No, it's definitely going to be it's just a tough time. I think everyone is just going to have to go through it, because we're just going through the motions, because this is the first time this has ever happened. But I think we'll come out stronger and hopefully learn our customers or clients better, or the people, our fans, better. But I think right now the most important thing is just always to have that conversation, because you never want to be outdated or for people to forget about you in any type of business. So even if it's something small, to just, keep people reminded about who you are and what you're doing. It definitely goes a long way, because definitely I've seen it with me, with children. If I do slack, I definitely notice that people definitely do lose interest. So yeah, just always trying to stay relevant as much as possible.
Talking about staying relevant, did you see that video, I Take Responsibility?
Yes.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
How desperate for attention are you? Like,
Yeah.
It was embarrassing.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, no, there's some people that are just, I don't know. I think this crisis has just like elevated.
It's internet, man. It drives you crazy.
Yeah.
That's why it's not bad necessarily. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like right now, in terms of music, I'm like, okay, I'm taking a break from all that. Personally, like, what motivates me to dig for music and it's just to connect with people.
Yes.
Like having it online, like, it's so dry.
Yeah.
It digs a hole in your soul. It's just like it's weird.
Yeah, because you miss the people, you miss the vibe, you miss the energy that people have, especially when you're playing that one song or that set that has everyone dancing. So I completely empathize with you, because it's the same exact way, even just like with being able to connect with people, because this time has just been hard. Like, even just for me going out to network and meet people, it's just been hard. It's just really been hard. Yeah.
So, what advice would you give to a young African entrepreneur today?
I think,
or any entrepreneur, really.
Yeah, I think with anything, especially with entrepreneurship, it's not going to be easy. You're definitely going to face a lot of battles. Really, maybe more losses at the beginning than wins. But the greatest thing is never fail to learn the lesson for each failure, and be able to also take the time to research and learn from other people's past mistakes. There's so many resources that are out there, either from libraries or even just books. Take the time and invest in reading, learning your craft. Take time to improve your craft, because if you want to separate yourself, it's going to take time. And if you're just going to launch a business today, yes, there are that 1 in a million people that are going to be an overnight success. But if you were to look at all the successful entrepreneurs, regardless of whoever they are, they've failed time and time again. Like, I can't name one person that hasn't failed, that's like been really, really successful. But that's just part of the process. So embrace it, grow with that. But at the same token, never ever compromise your passion. Like, never ever compromise it. Because you'll have people tell you a whole lot of things in terms of, especially like discourage you for doing certain things. But if you're really passionate about it and you feel strongly about it, no one should really distract you from that dream or that goal that you have. Just keep pushing.
And watch less bullshit on Netflix.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, it's just too many distractions nowadays. Like, like just trying to, just remove this TV show you read it, you're watching, and just take a book.
Yeah.
And try to compare what you gain from.
Yeah.
Compare what you gain from.
Yeah, it's literally crazy, because I literally tell a lot of people that I used to hate reading books. Like, whenever I'd open a book, I'd literally like fall asleep 10 minutes later. Until I actually started to get books that were speaking to the things that I wanted to learn.
Yeah.
So in terms of like entrepreneurship, so whether it was picking up books by Jeff Bezos or Think or Grow Rich, and really getting to soak up a lot of the trials that people, these guys are going to be going through. Because some of the things you read and like, oh shoot, like this is exactly what I'm going through. Like,
exactly.
But how did this person manage to move past this failure? Another really great book, if a lot of people are really interested, is Phil Knight's book. I don't know if you heard of Shoe Dog.
No.
Amazing book. So it's basically the book that basically details Nike's history.
Okay.
It came out a couple of years ago, but it is crazy the amount of failures that Nike had, and the amount of times they were like this close from bankruptcy.
Right.
But just because he was just persistent and just kept on pushing, so each time when there was a failure, there was a win right after that was even bigger than that failure. So it's just one of the things that it really taught me, was just like to be persistent even with the failures. Just keep moving. If it's something that you truly believe in, just keep pushing, keep moving. And even like the story of Nike, how it even came about was through a failure. Like
Right.
this guy failed to basically get a deal with this Japanese footwear company, Asics. That's when he basically started Nike, because they weren't selling him any more Asics anymore. So it's just like it's just crazy to see like that failure, time and time again, failure. Like, people get used to failure. It's part of life. You just have to like really move past it.
Yeah, man. That's also like when you look at the Last Dance with Michael Jordan. That's every time he had a failure, he was fired up. Like, he always found a way to turn this failure into the next thing that gonna, push him to destroy it.
Yeah. It's all about mental toughness, because you will like, even like I've had some really close friends from the beginning when I saw Children of the Dark Continent. Chris, why did you call this? Why did you do that? Why did you whatever? And I think one of the greatest quotes that I ever read was by this woman called Helen Keller, that said, those who mind don't matter. Those who matter don't mind. So basically, in terms of the people that I shouldn't even be paying attention to, those are the people that will be constantly criticizing me. But the people that I really value highly are the people that are the ones that I would see encouragement from time and time again. So those are the people that you really need to concentrate and have that ecosystem or that environment where you are, motivated. Have that ecosystem or that environment where people are pushing you. Have that ecosystem environment where you're learning new things. As they say, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah.
So constantly challenge yourself to be around better people that push you and motivate you to a higher level, because at the end of the day, that's what will always separate you from anyone else, is that you're pushing the boundaries. You're doing things that have never been done before, even like with this right now. And I haven't seen anyone within either Toronto or within besides a few places in America, but I've never seen anyone doing this in Toronto. So I believe that this is going to be huge for you one day. Like, it may seem like it's small, but I definitely see it going and morphing into something that's just going to blow your mind away.
Well, on those wise words, thank you so much, man.
Yeah, man, you're welcome.
And I hope you're right. I hope your prediction's all right.
Hey, you got to make it happen. Don't let me down now. It's all on you.
All right. See you next week.
All right. Thanks, guys.